how much will you fine Italy?
No, you're going too fast. Let's move step by step, and let's be very careful about that, because everybody's watching us. We consider that Italy's budget is at very serious deviation case. And this is why today we are responding to the Italian government. We asked them to change their draft budgetary plan. They did not. They sent almost exactly the same. And so we confirm our analysis. We had questions on as well the structural deficit, on growth, on debt. We had doubts, and these questions are not been answered. And I believe that this budget is not good for the Italian people because it increases debt, and it's not going very likely to create more growth. But we have not decided any kind of excessive deficit procedure today. But if there is no change, and if the member states agree on our analysis, then we are paving the way to the opening of such a procedure. The Council of Ministers, the 19 ministers of the Eurozone and the 27 ministers have to examine that. If they do, then if they agree with us, we will have to propose such a procedure, and we will have to propose also a recommendation on the trajectory required from Italy to reduce its deficit and also its debt.
So
but we're not yet there.
Okay, we're not yet there, but the market reaction, euro's higher, you see money coming into BTPs. That to me tells me the market thinks that you weren't as aggressive as you could have been on Italy, giving them a reprieve. How long do you give them? What do you need to see specifically to back off on a potential fine?
Well, first of all, we are not giving time or negotiating or trying to find a compromise in between. We have rules, and these rules are common to all the Eurozone member states. All of them have respected them. All of them have made tremendous efforts to reduce their deficit and debt. Just one figure. In 2010, the average deficit in the Eurozone was 6%. Today, it's under 1%. And let's imagine that everybody acts on its own without respecting the rules, then there would be no Eurozone today. And this is why having a free rider behavior is not respecting the interdependence of countries inside a single currency. But again, I'm not rushing, I'm not pressuring, I'm just following the rules, and I'm also respecting the spirit of dialogue with the Italian authorities. It's up to them now to adapt to this new situation and to take the necessary measures in order to show that this significant, very serious deviation can be corrected. If it's not the case, we will move forward, but my door is open to dialogue with the Italian government because the interest of the Eurozone as a whole, and Italy in particular, is that we move in the same direction and at the same speed.
And so,
with the same rules.
Thank you. And Commissioner Moscovici, tell us, if you can, rank in order what the issues are. If they did walk through your door, what would be agenda item number one that would make you feel comfortable with this budget?
But agenda number one is well known. It's public debt. The public debt of Italy compared to GDP is the second largest in the Eurozone after Greece. It's 130%. It's way too high. And if our forecasts are correct, and they are the same as all other international institutions, OECD, IMF, etc., this public debt is not going to be reduced. And it costs a lot to Italian services. No, a budget which raises debt is not a good budget for the people, because more debt always strikes the more vulnerable. So the question is, how can this debt can be reduced, but also how can growth be enhanced? And we don't see, frankly, in this budget, the real reforms which would create more growth and also reinforce productivity in Greece, because that's obviously the main problem of this country. And finally, the structural deficit, the one which is capable of reducing that, is way too high. And on these three parameters, we've asked questions and we've raised doubts. We received no answer. That's why we are persisting, and we see that undoubtedly there is a very serious deviation to our rules, which is bad for the Eurozone and bad for Italy as well. It has to be corrected one way or another.
But Commissioner, you talk about the spirit of dialogue, but you're not putting their feet to the fire. If investors are still going to buy their bonds and it's going to be risk on there, you're not putting their feet to the fire enough to get them to move.
We are not there to overcome our responsibilities and power. Sometimes people say the Commission is a kind of non-elected government led by bureaucrats and they have all the powers. They can say yes or they can say no. This is not the case. We are not bureaucrats. We are political appointees. We are under control of a parliament, the European Parliament. We act under the light of citizens. The markets are also watching us, and we try to express the general interest of Europe and to follow a rule. No more, no less. And I think this procedure is wise, because if we would be stronger, we would be accused of being illegitimate. If we would be weaker, we would not be useful. No, we are really at our place, and we are there to say there are risks. And they need to be addressed. There are imbalances, they need to be corrected. And no, this budget is not going to reduce deficits enough, to reduce debt at all, and to produce growth as it should. And so we are moving in this procedure step by step. I want to keep my door open to dialogue, but I will also follow this path with a great determination and a total firmness.
Commissioner Moscovici, while we have you, we have to ask you about Brexit. The Prime Minister of the UK speaking in Parliament right now. As you know, a pretty heated discussion, a lot of negotiations talking about open doors there. What's the contingency plan if there is no deal agreed upon, if we do have the UK essentially crashing out of the EU come March of next year?
Well, I'm not going to expand on that. As you know, this Commission has a key role in this negotiation. The chief negotiator is my predecessor in the Commission, Michel Barnier, and he acts not only in the name of the Commission, but also under the control of all EU member states who will meet. The leaders will meet on Sunday if there is no exceptional event intervening since then. And we prefer by far, because we believe it's the highest interest of as well the UK and Europe that there is a deal, and we also believe that the deal which is on the table is the best possible. That's the scheme we're working on, and we are dedicating all our strengths, all our forces to that. Let's reach that deal. We respect the will of the British people. We regret the Brexit, so we need to succeed in the best way possible to have a very strong relationship in the future.